Okay. Good morning, everyone. Hi, good morning. This must be all alumni getting reconnected, as this comes out. Connect, reconnect, and network, and that's what this is about. Sorry, I'm a bit close to the mic, I think. People from Mason, Hayes and Curran at the back tell us if we're a bit close to the mic. My name is Emer Gilvarry. I'm managing partner here at Mason, Hayes and Curran, and we're delighted to host the seminar this morning, Technopolis, Ireland's Digital Future. I'm a UCD graduate myself, so I'm particularly delighted to welcome my alumni here this morning. Sometimes, though, when I do this with UCD, I wish I'd spent more time in the classroom, because I look back at my academic results and frown. In any event, the seminar this morning will explore current and future trends online and in social media. This is a subject very close to the Mason, Hayes and Curran story, because some of you will know that we act for the leading technology companies and many of the emerging technology companies who have chosen Ireland as a location of choice. I'm reliably told that Technopolis means a series of buildings dedicated to scientific research. Our speakers this morning, our panel, are all located within a very short walk of this building. And I think you're located here in that digital heart of Dublin. UCD is also very close to the digital story. Recently, it hired Laurent Muzellec, and I hope I got your name right. Laurent will head up the new MSc in Digital Marketing at the Business School. And I'm delighted that Laurent will take over this morning and chair the session. So enjoy, connect, network, and it's good to see you here.
Okay, Emer, thank you very much. So thank you very much for being here with us today, whether you're here in this room or with us online. I also want to thank David, Gail, Jeff, and Philip for sharing their thoughts on the impact on social media for businesses, as well as Mason, Hayes, and Curran for hosting this event. We're absolutely delighted to have three representatives from the most prominent players here today. But I just want to say that we are in regular contact with those companies at UCD. We have a number of graduates from UCD now working in Google, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And I would say for the people who are in this room, but also for the people who are abroad, if you're looking for jobs in this area, certainly Ireland is the place to be. Ireland is the place to come. The other thing is, if you're looking for training and education in this area, Ireland is also the place to be and the place to come. And indeed, UCD is one of the places you should be looking out. We have the MSc in digital marketing, but we also have like a very successful program for the past couple of years, MSc in iBusiness, and there's also initiative and several modules that integrate the social media and digital marketing aspect in the course. So I'd like to introduce the panel tonight. Today, this morning, we have David Sneddon, Director of Large Customer Sales, Germany, Switzerland, and Austria from Google. We have we have Jeff Matthews, Director of Global Sales and Development in LinkedIn. We also have Gail Power, Director of Global Sales Services at Facebook. And of course, we have Philip Nolan, Partner Technology, Media and Communication, Mason and Hayes and Curran. First question to the panel, and it goes to all of you. It's pretty simple. It seems to me that social media platforms were initially developed and intended for use by individual users, but we have like a business audience today with us, and basically, I'd like to know, as a business, what can a social platform bring to me? Maybe David, you want to start with this and tell us what you do.
Thank you, Laurent, and good morning, everybody. Google's mission, encapsulated in 2004, was to make the world's information universally accessible and organize it accordingly. And I think there's kind of a twist on that from a Google Plus perspective, which is the reason why I'm with these august panelists here today, because we want to organize it for you and also for your businesses. The web has a social spine. Arguably, Google was a little bit late coming to that party, but by God, we put an awful lot of time and effort in the last year to try and join the party. And I think we've done it reasonably successfully. We have about 400 million registered users and about 100 million actives. Not as much as some of the other guys here on the panel, but actually we're actually catching up fast. And the reason why we put so much time and energy into this is because we believe the web has a social spine, okay? And therefore we are integrating everything that we do, all from a user perspective, be it a consumer user or be it a business user, in order to try and make that experience as positive for, as I said, consumers and businesses as humanly possible. There are areas that I'm sure that we'll touch on throughout the course of the discussion today, but I suppose there are two overall areas. First of all, it's a technology play. Google offers lots and lots of solutions for businesses, so Hangouts, for example, where a brand can directly connect to its audience. Cadbury's used this very, very successfully for the UK. And secondly, more on the direct response side, there are an awful lot of metrics that really tie into the rest of your digital marketing strategy. So if I was to encapsulate it in kind of two areas, there's a kind of direct response piece, and there is a brand piece as well. And I think that really, as a starter for 10, I think is what Google can offer in the social space.
Jeff, you want to say?
Yeah, great. So with LinkedIn, of course. Good morning and thank you. I just want to, before I start, echo the praise given to UCD Alumni Association for putting this on. I can never say no to Tara and that association, simply because we've hired so many amazing people from UCD, as well as other education institutes in Ireland. It's a great place to have a large team because of the education system. So I'll say yes to everything, including getting up early and being here. All right. So in terms of when you think of social networking, what that means to the enterprise and what that means to business, LinkedIn, of course, has 175 million professionals representing their own personal professional identities online. But with those professional identities, they're also part of an organization, an enterprise. So therefore, companies also have a presence there as well. And effectively, we're able to help companies change the way they hire, market, and sell. What's interesting about this topic, when you speak to, there's a lot of entrepreneurs in this room, there's people of large enterprises. Right now, a lot of the conversation that's happening in companies around the world is, should we have a social media strategy? Should you be thinking about Facebook and Twitter and Google, LinkedIn as a company? And should you have a company strategy on social media? Funny enough, if you were to rewind 20 years, and not even 20 years, think mid-90s, Pearl Jam, top of the charts. All right, companies were sitting around in forums like this. There's probably a panel right here. This building wasn't here. And they were discussing, okay, this whole internet thing. Should we have a company web page? Should we have a company web page? Right, the answer very quickly became yes, obviously. All right, and then the next question was, okay, what should it be, and how should we represent ourselves online? And it feels like social media is doing that right now. So for the entrepreneurs in the room, the recent graduates in the room, imagine 20 years ago having the foresight of what the internet was going to become. I think social media is the next frontier. It's not that I think that. I think the industry agrees it's the next frontier. But how it plays out is going to be a really exciting ride, and I'm personally blessed to be a part of that journey.
Yeah, Gail?
Thanks. So Facebook's mission is to make the world more open and connected. And that doesn't mean just to people. It means to make the entire world more open and connected. And just like in real life, we don't work in a vacuum. We don't, go out to dinner with our families nowhere. We go out to businesses. We interact with businesses. We buy from businesses every day. And Facebook believes that businesses are better in a connected world. So it's much more a reflection of what's happening offline that we're bringing online with social media. And this isn't just Facebook. This is what social media is all about. It's trying to get that word of mouth marketing and trying to capture everything that happens offline, online. So as a business, if you care about your customers and you care about what they say about you, the best way to harness that at scale is on platforms such as Facebook.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, but it seems to me that we have well, first of all, I think businesses, they have limited time and resources that they want to allocate to every single strategy that they can pursue, and social media strategy is only one stream. So I guess one question would be what is the the right amount of time that they should put into it. And related to this question, the other side of the coin is, you know, we're talking about social media fatigue. You kind of start hearing those terms. Lots of consumer gets like, you know, we get constant updates. So what's the right level of activity that a business should put into building its social media platform? I don't know if Jeff or, you know, wanted to say something about this, or and then you move on. Yeah.
Yeah, I could almost separate that out. So in terms, the first part of the question sounds like we're talking about should company have resources dedicated to social media. The second part about fatigue is almost another topic on that, because the conversation is going two ways there. In terms of should they have a strategy, and your customers are already online, they're already talking about you. You know, I think you downplayed Google's presence in social media, because, you know, if I have problems with my T1N1000, right, I'm not going to the company website, and I'm not even calling them, I'm Googling it. Google's the first step for a lot of customer service issues. And if you don't have a response to whatever's showing up in that page when people are Googling your products and your services, you're not part of that conversation. So in terms of resources, companies need to have resources available to join that conversation, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, random blogs, companies that are proactive get out there. And then it's not a matter of adding resources to their current infrastructure, it's a matter of reallocating current resources. So taking volume away from your call centers and proactively solving problems before people even get to that point. So it's more of a change in the company strategy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that we've seen is that companies that have huge success in Facebook are ones that have a central point of ownership. So whether you're using Facebook as a customer service tool, an advertising platform, a PR platform, you need to have one owner and one person that's fully accountable, and that helps your whole company have one voice on Facebook and make sure that it's a coordinated message that's going out. That's one piece of advice. In terms of fatigue and whether or not, you know, people get sick of hearing about your company or your message, I think it depends on what your message is. You know, on Facebook, just like the friends you interact with and the people that you want to see their status updates the most, the photographs that you click on and you like, the videos you watch, it's the most engaging content that you like, irrespective of who that comes from. So as a company, we always advise, you know, the frequency is one element. We normally say, you know, post once or twice a week, but it's not. That's not enough. It's the engagement. It's the quality of that content, and you know, it needs to be content such as asking questions, things that will really make people engage, and that's how it gets higher up the news feed, and that's how you make sure that your customers are hearing about you and that your company is going to be top of mind.
I just want to jump. I have some friends that post more than once or twice a week. Could we tell them to stop posting once or twice an hour?
You can tell them. You can unfriend people.
Well, no, to that point that you can stop getting their posts, and that's where. Sorry, I'm jumping in your spot here, but so fatigue comes from noise, right? And so you need to bring more relevance from the message, and that comes from two things. Number one, the user having the tools and ability to modify it. So yeah, stop getting that person's post in your feed, but then the companies also doing things like you're talking about, more popular posts going to the top. So there's two things there, and I think everyone's got to figure out how do you filter out the noise and get the right message. How does LinkedIn get the most useful information to professionals?
I think actually, if I mean, just answer the first part as you outlined the question there. I think about 10 years ago, people were coming to the likes of Google, and also in my previous life, I used to run an advertising agency, and they were asking us about website build. Then 7 or 8 years ago, it was maybe SEO, and then it was SEM, and so there's a kind of progression now. What I've noticed in Ireland is that there tends to be quite a long period of kind of catch-up before the relevant, I suppose, professional services kind of catch up with the demand of a crowd like this. You guys want to kind of push on and actually make a difference, but there's not necessarily the advice out there. What I would say to you is, from what I can see, and I think I can speak on behalf of the rest of the panel as well, that we find that our customers are coming directly to us now. They're saying, look, I don't just want an SEM strategy, I don't just want a social strategy. I actually want you to give me a view on how everything knits together. I don't necessarily want you to go out and find a third-party provider for me, but just give me a view. Because the fact is that, in my view, you used to be able to have things that were relatively kind of siloed. So you'd have your SEM guy here, you might have the website guy here, you may have had an agency purchasing display advertising for you from maybe in the last few years, video on demand advertising on RT Player or something like that. The fact is that, and this is a usually overused phrase, but everything is so interconnected now. It's why we at Google believe in the social spine, and you've heard the other panelists talk about visions that are fairly similar to that, because there's such an interconnectedness here. So just to answer that particular question, I think my view there would be that I agree in terms of shifting resources. I would say, where is your priority? Because there is an enormous reputation management side of this, side of what social can do. There is a kind of proactive outreach. There is the fact that brands are being kind of pieced together by customers using both social channels and then video embedded within social channels too. So I think in terms of I encourage you to go back to your own businesses and see where those priorities currently are, and then actually push the resources into that particular area. Because the fact is, a lot of stuff is now known about SEO. A lot of stuff is now known about website build. Less is kind of generally well known about what the future looks like for social, which is why it's such an exciting area. But why it's also, I think, important to place resources there now.
One issue business faces, as you said, integration is important for business in terms of its sales and marketing strategy, and a natural thing which one will want to do is to integrate that strategy across the different social media platforms and more traditional media. From a legal perspective, one issue which often presents itself is around the personal data. So you might have a traditional CRM database, and then you want to get more active on a professional or social network platform. And where one has to be careful is this idea of, well, why don't we just pull across all that data, or vice versa, or just scrape it off our professional media platform and pull it into our CRM system. That's where issues can arise. So while you want to have an integrated strategy, there can be limitations around the integrated personal data around it. So you have to be a little bit more cautious around moving large sums of personal data around. But there's ways in which it's not an obstacle, it's something you want us to be aware of. You're aware of this.
Never heard of it. No, he's quite right. In my previous life, I worked in the B2B solution selling for the software companies here. I originally came over with Salesforce.com in Ireland for a few years now. And the first thing you notice when you get to Europe is the privacy laws, or privacy laws, depending on how you say it, really intense in Europe in terms of using people's data. And what you're describing, scraping, literally companies going on and copying and pasting names and putting them into their own CRM system. And emailing them is illegal in a lot of countries, which is why Philip can afford really nice suits.
It's nothing to do with screen scraping. Yeah. But equally, I mean, the opposite is also relevant too. Is when you move from traditional media onto the platform, you can't naturally, and you have a lawful and legitimate database within your CRM system. You can't always simply just take all of that, and fully move it onto your platform, but then just engage in mass communication. So as people via the new platform, there's careful steps one has to take around consents and communications, and then it may be possible.
So one of those platforms that seems to be very popular at the moment, and probably might be even more in the future, is the mobile platform. David, you mentioned the fact that we know pretty much everything about SEO and social media marketing to a certain extent. And what about mobile? And is it appropriate for businesses, to engage with their audience anytime, anywhere, any device? And what's your view on this? Like, how is the mobile going to be part of the strategy in the future?
I suspect the simple answer is that mobile will be the strategy. Yeah. The kind of staggering, the faster that the kind of factories of the Far East can knock out smartphones and high-end device tablets, the more that consumers are actually buying them. The recent iPhone 5 launch, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's 7 million pre-orders or something incredible. I think it's one of the fastest-selling consumer electronic items of all time. Consumers, the point is that consumers, be they personal or business consumers, are moving so rapidly into this space anyway. I mean, when we designed Google+, we designed it as a mobile-first platform rather than as a desktop platform. And I think it's something that the entire industry is hurtling towards as quickly as they possibly can. In terms of specifically engaging on it, unfortunately, not that many great examples in Ireland yet. but I think that we will start to see them across the next few months. I think that some brands have engaged fairly well. I think that some of the telecom operators with their own real estate have probably done a reasonable job. But if I would look to the kind of some of the activities happening now in the States, where there are kind of whole brands being built up on apps themselves becoming from playing kind of simple video games or kind of ordering a taxi to enormously expensive and incredibly integrated things into the way that a business works. And I see this really being the future, and it's hurtling towards us. And unfortunately and confusingly, in this interconnected world, mobile and social are so closely intertwined with one another because people are spending so much time on their mobile phones.
But what about...
Just to build on there's more internet page views on mobile than desktops. So every company needs to have a mobile strategy and a mobile compatible site. iPads increasingly relevant, particularly for LinkedIn, because most professionals come home and they're on the iPad on the couch. So we've actually planned content around where we see mobile views. So we have this service called LinkedIn Today that serves up news that's relevant to the members based on their networks. Again, trying to filter out that noise and making sure they're getting the right content. And we refresh it for the morning coffee and the after work iPad couch read. And the iPad app, we won, quick plug, we won the app of the week 1 week on iTunes. We even beat out Angry Birds, which is, I thought, impossible. But it has to be a big part of everyone's strategy of mobile.
Yeah, I mean, at Facebook, we've been following a mobile-first strategy pretty much for the last year to 18 months as our users moved off of desktop. And in a lot of developing countries, there's been a leapfrog effect where nobody really ever used anything but mobile for accessing Facebook and for other sites around the internet. One of the things that we see is that people engage more on Facebook on mobile, so they don't just, it's not that more people are on Facebook on mobile, they tend to use both, but the people that use mobile most engage most. So as a business, it's really important that you've got a mobile strategy and you understand how your users are engaging with your business. Some of the things that we've been doing to try and make this as easy as possible for you as a business is to have like page management apps. That means that if your customers are engaging with your page, that you as a page owner or page admin can really quickly respond in real time, because if your users are going on and engaging with your business at any time, anywhere, then you need to be doing the same. You need to be where your consumers are, and you need to be able to engage with them when they're engaging with you. It's a conversation, not a one-way street anymore.
I saw another Facebook, one of the Facebook employees, Mark Zuckerberg, on TechCrunch, say, you might have heard of him, he's in a movie, that Facebook's going to make a lot of money on mobile. But the challenge, of course, is there's not much real estate on there. How is Facebook going to make a lot of money on mobile? I'm excited now. I'm a shareholder, by the way.
So, I mean, it's developing, but a lot of it is around, as a business, making sure that your story and your message is in the newsfeed. So it's not selling off real estate, it's making sure that the most relevant information is definitely there for the customers that you want to engage with. And that means, boosting your stories to make sure that they appear in the newsfeed to the people you want them to appear to is part of it, but there's loads more that's in development.
Just a couple of sort of... Sorry, Philip, please.
Go ahead.
Just a couple of... We're all extremely polite here. Just slow in. I'd love to come off soon. I love LinkedIn, by the way.
I love Google!
I think just a couple of practical tips. I think what we're seeing is a lot of... we have a lot of export business in Google. So, for example, of our Irish client base, the majority of that revenue would be export revenue, in line with the kind of profile of our general exports anyway here. And what we're finding is that actually a lot of advertisers are starting to move towards exporting in a mobile-only strategy rather than traditional desktop strategy. And it's a little bit scary because you kind of assume that you'll get greater legitimacy if you're on the big screen rather than on a smaller screen or a medium-sized screen. But actually, it's something that we find great success with. And because export is so important to where we as a country here have to develop in the next few years, I would encourage you to try and take that lead. The second point is that when we're planning campaigns on behalf of our clients, we're actually noticing that mobile costs, so the actual cost of reaching a user, is far, far less, and will probably remain far, far less, because there's so many impressions and so many impacts being pumped into this space that although we have a crack sales squad, even we can't actually keep pace with it. So I would say there is actually kind of a big economic advantage to investing in the mobile platform. It won't be there forever, and mobile kind of costs of reaching users will catch up with desktop costs, and will probably exceed them at some point. But certainly, you know, there's still somewhat of a first mover advantage now for the next couple of years, and I would encourage you to try and take advantage of that.
No, one issue faced from a legal perspective is with the integration of social media and mobile is screen size, because clearly from a legal perspective, and privacy drives a lot of this, there's a requirement for a lot of notices to be given, especially rules on cookies now, which require special notices to be given occasionally. And equally, if you're going to have an app which sits on a social media platform, when you're registering for that app on mobile, you have to go through a certain registration process, you have to give certain consents for the app often to access some of your personal data held on the platform. So to go through that registration process and to give those consents, you want to do it in a very seamless fashion from a business perspective. From a legal perspective, you do have to kind of be able to give these consents. So the challenge, I guess, is to be able to do it, to strike that balance whereby one is capturing the right consents, but in a user-friendly, intuitive fashion without delaying the whole experience. So that gets more difficult as screens shrink, but it's happening. It's a challenge.
To give us an impression of how big or the shift is, you've noticed that people are accessing your respective platform from different devices, and what is the trend? Like, I'm assuming they're accessing more and more from mobile. Is it the majority? Does it depend at the time of the day? And do you have any insight to provide on this? Yeah.
So I think it differs depending on the country and
right.
I guess the state of broadband and the internet in different countries as well. So developing countries where broadband tends to not be as good, people are going to mobile first.
Okay.
So I think, you know, as a business person, make sure you know where your audiences are. You know, even in Ireland, if you go to Kerry, broadband's okay, but mobile signal is pretty poor. So people's behaviour follow the technology and what's actually available to them and what gives them the best experience. So it does depend, there's no like blanket rule. We have more than half of our customers are now accessing Facebook daily through mobile devices. But that doesn't mean they're mobile only. It means they're both desktop and mobile. But we're definitely seeing it increase. I haven't seen the stats specifically for Ireland, but we tend to equate a lot of our daily usage with mobile, and the two tend to be correlated. So I'm guessing about 1.5 million people in Ireland are going to be accessing Facebook on their mobile.
The same proportion?
Yeah, we are expecting more page views from mobile than desktop in the very near future. I can't remember the exact target date, but classes in the graphs are shooting up. And we're investing very heavily in, of course, Android, iPhone, iPad, platforms to make sure that it's simple. The number one thing there is to strip out, again, the noise. If you look at our online app, I think there's like 4 buttons on it. And the focus there is to make it as simple as possible so users can access data they need.
All right. David, yeah. Same.
Plus one.
Same plus one. So
plus one.
Same train. Okay. We've talked about engagement. We've talked about the legal issues. You've mentioned the fact that Facebook or other and I'm sure the other platforms the same are going to be making some money out of mobile platform. But I guess for the audience, the main issue is not so much how you guys are going to make money, but it's more how they're going to make money, and therefore, or maybe not money, but what about this idea of return on engagement and this notion that I invest in this in those platforms, I invest time and resources. What can I expect to get out of it? Can I expect to generate more sales? And do you have any insight into this issue? If you wanted to say something.
I'll start with the word caution, I guess. I don't know. I mean, in terms of an engagement, and when one sets up, take a Facebook page, for example. I mean, businesses do have to be careful. It's not a case, let's put a lot of energy into establishing it and just abandon it. I mean, once established, I mean, if the page is going to permit engagement and comments by different users, business has to be quite careful in terms of monitoring that content. And there's a peculiar case in Australia quite recently where Smirnoff were found liable for comments posted on their Facebook page. So while clearly business doesn't want to be there monitoring and policing everything, one has to be cognizant of what is posted. And the key point is that if there's comments put up by users that are negative, it's just getting them quickly, especially once put on notice of them. So that's the only sort of, well, but it's one of the things that business has to watch out for. It's just content.
Okay, I think I'll come back to this later.
Indeed.
I have a question for all of you. Okay, you go ahead. Yeah.
So I guess, can businesses make money off Facebook? I think the answer is yes. I mean, I don't think I know. The answer is yes. We've seen, whether it's in the gaming industry, we've seen whole companies grow up just from making money on Facebook. But some local examples that I really love, there's a company in Galway called the Cupcake Bakery. I don't know if anybody's from Galway. It's a lovely little bakery that sells cupcakes. And they've invested really heavily in a Facebook strategy where things like, if they're going to launch a new flavor of cupcake, they'll post it on their page, and they've gone from being a one-person shop that sometimes sells good, has good sales on the weekend, maybe not so much during the week, to selling out of new flavors within an hour. They've now had to take on 2 extra members of staff, and this is all just Facebook. They don't do any other advertising, so they're clearly making money out of marketing on Facebook. Starbucks did a study that shows that fans and fans who engaged tend to visit a Starbucks shop 8% more frequently than a non-fan, and when they were in the store, they'd spend 11% more than non-fans as well. So I don't know how representative Starbucks is of your business, but the fact is we can see really small businesses that have had success through marketing on Facebook, plus you've got really large examples that have proven stats. And I think it's always really important to remember that on Facebook, your fans are your customers. Your engaged fans tend to be your most loyal customers. So it makes sense that if you can connect with them on a more regular basis, that you're going to make more money out of that.
Great. And in terms of how you all or entrepreneurs shift their business to make money on this, it's obviously helping companies understand all this, right? Coming back to my first example of the internet in '94, right? A lot of people made a lot of money just going out and building websites, right? At that time, it was probably the boss's son or daughter built the company website, and that's probably what's happening with social media at this time. So helping companies understand how to participate on there is a massive opportunity for everyone. In terms of how LinkedIn makes money, it's actually not the primary mission. Primary mission is to make professionals more productive and make every professional more successful. So because they're using mobiles, we want to provide them tools to make them more successful. And to shift the example here, one of the monetization opportunities we have is job postings, employers looking to recruit talent, and we have sponsored job ads on mobile. I think there's a lot of opportunity. So for you recruiting out there to get your message there. And then in terms of working with the limited real estate, we similar to your, is it like or fans? We have a follower ecosystem where people who are interested in your company will follow your company and want to hear your message. So not necessarily always a consumer brand, but many B2B companies may have followers that are just interested in what's going on in your company. And it may look like advertising, but it's not advertising because people might be interested in what's going on at Dreamforce or the latest product release from Oracle, for example.
Okay. I mentioned earlier on, I think there are probably 2 different strategies that we can use social for, or that Google can help your businesses. The first one is in the brand space. So, with brand engagement, with reaching many hundreds of millions of people, much smaller groups, delete because we can target people on a circle by circle basis, so you can construct circles. But on the branding side, I think those metrics are kind of reasonably well understood. But I just wanted to ask the question of the audience, actually, on the direct response side. How many people here have an SEM strategy? So how many people use paid search in their businesses now? Maybe just have a quick show of hands. Okay, so we've got about 5 or 6 people here. Well, okay. So here's something that I can put in front of you then. The way that we are now using social and Google Plus and like building it into our platform is that because we believe that the web has this social spine that I mentioned earlier on. If you have a Google Plus page connected for your business, or even you personally, but in this case for your business, you are going to get a higher click-through rate. So it's actually one of the things that actually we now see as more relevant in terms of driving personalized searches. So if Jeff here actually likes a particular brand of cupcake, and I like a particular brand of cupcake, I search on cupcakes in Galway, to use that particular example there from Gail. It's more likely, because Jeff has +1'd it or gone onto the brand page, that actually that result will show back to me. If Google knows in some way that the two of us are actually connected, and therefore there will then be a higher click-through rate. So my advice there is very, very simple on the direct response side. If you can, and if you're already using paid for search, get yourself a Google Plus page, because it'll actually help with overall click-through rates. So it'll actually make you, it'll either push you further up the rankings, or it'll increase your quality score, or it'll reduce your cost per click, cost per acquisition, whatever the metric is that actually drives your business.
So is that causal or correlated? Like, is it just that people who have Google Plus accounts are also more savvy Google users, so they're able to get better click-through rates, or is it? I don't understand the causality there.
It's basically because we now take it into account as one of the things that we think is very important when people searching, is like what my friends or colleagues have thought.
It almost sounds like you're bribing them to use Google Plus. You're like offering an incentive, I mean, not bribing. So.
No, it's not at all. It's not at all, actually. I think, but thank you for the leading question. You see, the panel's turned nasty now. Did everybody feel that? I think, actually, because if I'm your friend, okay, yeah, okay, just for the purpose of this conversation, I'm actually going to take it more seriously if you give me a personal recommendation. If I look at, for example, a lot of the success of Facebook, it's actually because people like connecting in their overall circles and telling their friends. And I think all of the social networks are built upon a very similar thing. So if I know that you like those cupcakes in Galway, then it's more likely to serve a relevant piece of advertising back to me. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you guys? More importantly, it's your businesses.
Yeah, yeah, and we can also see how it fits the Google business ecosystem as well, quite well.
Well, I mean.
But yeah, there's always two sides to the story, I'm sure. Another thing about like the cupcake example, I mean, I guess like a lot of entrepreneurs here are based in Ireland, and I think maybe one of the myths or one of those things that were being said at the beginning of the internet was that, oh yeah, you have the internet, now you're going to be able to export everywhere and send your product to the other side of the world. The reality is that actually business is still very often done locally, whether or not you have the internet. And so with regard to the use of social media, do you see like that there are like that expand that continues to do this, that gives an opportunity to export, or is it very much a local based, community based media that helps you to communicate with your audience locally rather than internationally? What's your take on this, and what's your views? Gail, if you want to start.
I think it can be what you want it to be. I mean, there's just over 950 million users on Facebook. You can target any of them with your messages and with your stories, or you can target the 500 people that might live within a 1 mile radius of your cupcake bakery that is relevant to you. And I think for me, one of the things that I feel really passionate about when it comes to Facebook as a tool for businesses, it's that precision targeting. It's the fact that you can target the demographic you want, but also the geography that you want as well, meaning that you can reach your customers wherever they are and wherever you are. And it's real users as well on Facebook, right? It's, sorry, that was me. If you, still early in the morning. Everybody knows it's me on Facebook. I'm Gail Power. My profile picture looks like me. So for a business, you know that you're actually accessing people who are 1 mile away from your business. You know that where they live is what they've populated. You know that it's real and it's authentic, and therefore you're definitely going to be able to connect to the people that you really want to connect to.
Yeah. It's an interesting one in terms of knocking down all borders and going global. When you think of the world is flat, Thomas Friedman's book came out probably 15 years ago now. Implied that was exactly going to happen, globalization, and it wouldn't matter if you were in India or Japan, it was all one world. Follow-up studies have shown that despite the open communication globally, investment's still very local, and a lot of business is still done very local. So one of the things we're seeing LinkedIn being used for is what's being called social selling. The idea that because there's so much noise out there, if I know someone who knows that person, I'm able to connect with them. For example, I'm on this panel. I looked up everyone on the panel. I saw that Philip, the lawyer, is connected to our lawyer at LinkedIn. I went to our lawyer at LinkedIn and said, hey, can I get an introduction? Sure enough, and now I've had the chance to meet with him prior to this panel. So I've already got an edge on the other panelists because the lawyer's on my side. But that's just one example. And even as a salesperson 5-6 years ago at Salesforce.com, if I was going into a meeting with a prospect, I want to know who in my company knows people in that company, right? Is there an executive relationship that I can leverage to get this deal done? Also, who in this room used to work for a company that used my competitor or a company that used my product and service? So I can already, the more I know about the people I'm meeting with, the better. And then, again, getting introductions. If our CEO knows someone, their CEO, happy to help get me in there to make that happen. So it's all these social networkers are making a smaller world out of a bigger world.
Echo one as well.
Yeah, echo Gal's points on targeting. I mean, you can go as broad or as niche. I'd probably just add to that I think that it depends on the business model to a certain extent, and that's probably the biggest single variable. If you're a pure play online retailer, then as long as you've got logistics that can span across a continent like Amazon can, then actually the rate of entry into new markets is only really limited by length of supply chain, and so what you tend to find is that a lot of businesses that kind of first broke ground on the internet actually have like two real USPs. One is obviously knowledge of their own customer base and the ability to acquire them, and then also hand in hand the ability to export simultaneously. It doesn't suit every single business. So if you're a traditional organization, of course there are much more important logistical considerations there.
Okay. Yeah.
One legal point out. I mean, in terms of the advertising model across the social media platforms is very clean from a legal perspective and does not throw up a lot of issues. So take the cupcake business. You're in Galway. You want to expand into Mayo. I mean, before, if one wanted to use technology, you might say, well, look, I'll buy a list of emails of Mayo-based potential consumers, and I'll just email them. Also, I get this list through, however, and I email them. Well, that email, once you send it, you've committed a criminal offence for each email you sent, because chances are you don't have the consents to send those emails. Whereas using social media, you don't need to know. You simply pick Mayo, and you simply say, well, look, the people actually like demographic tend to be women, and they tend to be in their 40s to 50s, for example, and you can just target that demographic. You can send it through to social media, and you haven't committed any sort of issue in terms of personal data processing, and there's no issue of being prosecuted under the spam rules.
So there's no major concern there.
There's no risk
micro targeting when using social media.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's very reassuring, because I was going to say to you before, like you've been, those guys seems to be saying like before you made that point, it seems to be very enthusiastic and say, yeah, go for social media. Remember the internet 20 years ago. This is social media. This is going to be this and mobile, and go for it. And then like you're there. Oh, be careful. Like there are legal issues, and so I mean, what's your perspective on this? Like how can a company manage these things where the legal system sometimes seems to be actually maybe a little bit behind what is actually happening in the marketplace, and maybe sometimes there's laws that actually impede the growth or the use of those technologies. So what's your take on this, and what's your perspective? How can company try or attempt to solve that conundrum or that difficulty?
Yeah. Well, look, the law is never going to move as fast as technology. The most relevant law here is data privacy law. Thankfully, in Ireland, the regime is fairly wouldn't say pro-business, but understanding of business. And secondly, the law is principled, so it's not unduly prescriptive. In terms of advertising on social media, and that's what obviously one can have a page or one can have advertising served up at relevant users. I mean, you know, social media, as I said, is a safer environment to engage rather than using traditional media such as SMS or emails, because using SMS or emails will trigger a very stringent set of rules. They're now called the e-privacy rules of 2011. Whereas, as I said, if using social media, it's clean because you're not actually getting a list of the users, so you're simply asking a social media, or sorry, a platform to push out the ads for you. So, I mean, as I said, the real risks for business, as I see it, is firstly, I don't see any real legal impediments. One just has to have this at the front of their mind. I think we talked earlier from a social media strategy perspective as a single person or persons with responsibility. That's always helpful. I mean, take Twitter, for example. If a company decides, well, look, let's just get out there and tweet a lot about our products, it's important that these people know how to tweet, they know a little bit about defamation, know a little bit about comparative advertising, and that there's a certain social media policy in place for employees that have access to the social media tools. That's pretty important. But there's certainly no impediments. I mean, the law is rather facilitative, to be honest with you.
Yeah, okay, so I think we're going to move very quickly to question and answer. I was just, before we do that, like if you have one piece of advice, or, you know, one say that you'd like to say to this entrepreneurial audience with regard to social media, what would it be? Like, what type, you know, should they, as you pointed out, they should engage in social media? They should do it now. They should do it rather later. They should wait and see. They should, you know, they should have clear policy before they engage. Just, you know, just some general thought on and advice on this. Maybe, I don't know, Jeff, you want to kick off, or?
Yeah, I basically led with that message. Get in, join the conversation, help companies make sense of it. You know, there's a lot of opportunity here, and the story, it'll be exciting to watch it unfold, and exciting to have you all and others part of that journey. So I think I've already hammered my message home on that one. So give some time back.
David, or
yeah, I think just don't have it as a separate string tied into the rest of your digital marketing strategy. With the world becoming more interconnected, both from a strategic and platform perspective, it can't afford to be regarded as something separate.
Yeah, and for me, it's, you know, your customers are going to be on Facebook or on other social media platforms, so you need to be there too. The consumption of social media versus television is increasing every day, and we think it's only going to keep increasing. So it's important that that your business migrates there as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We maybe take some question. Just hold on 1 second.
Curran Dempsey from Slattery Communications. I've quite a few people on my LinkedIn sort of profile, but I don't really leverage it. Just wondering, is that a Connor thing, or is it an Irish thing, or are there countries, cultures where people are more inclined to not just have a lot of people on their LinkedIn, but actually use it the way you were talking about earlier?
Great. Well, first off, I'm honored that to be the first question. Different professionals are finding different uses for LinkedIn, and we're tracking user engagement on how they're using the tool. And you know, the goal is to make every professional in the world more successful. So finding out what exactly it is you do and how you get value from the platform is something that we're working on every day. You know, see use cases like salespeople, what I previously spoke of, for many years have been using it to connect between their company and other organizations and help them sell better. And recruiters are obviously on there. Recruiters from both these companies are on there looking for talent to build their organizations. And I'm not specific or aware of your actual profession. Yeah, PR, definitely. Yeah, it's a good one. There would be groups on there to find out how other PR professionals are leveraging LinkedIn.
Countries, are there countries kind of say the Irish for a bit slow?
No, I would disagree. So the question, because you don't have a mic and there's a lot of people streaming, actually at LinkedIn, hi. The question is countries. He thinks the Irish might be a bit slow to adopt social media. From what I've seen, definitely not. I'm actually joined a Gaelic team. I play hurling, and they're very active on social media. You know where they are on Facebook, literally by the hour. And on top of that, Bebo was a phenomenon in Ireland. And I think Ireland, being a smaller country and an island, everyone's very connected. But you're right, like different countries do interact. The Dutch love LinkedIn. They're all over LinkedIn. In terms of how much they engage, how many posts, there's a lot going on there. And we'll see different things. Really interesting how it plays out in Asia Pacific in terms of like how the Japanese interact compared to the Irish, whereas the Irish are very social and outwardly facing, and the Japanese are very hierarchical in their social trends. Right? The Dutch would be very flat. So I think how societies interact offline is being reflected on how they interact online. But the Irish are very active, from what I've seen. Facebook would probably know more.
Yes. Yeah, you go ahead.
It's kind of a legal question on data mining, but it involves. I have students, Francis Mitchell from the Innovation Academy at UCD, and we sometimes do projects with our PhD students. And it was literally one day when one PhD student found out a ridiculous amount of information on very high net worth individuals and their contact details and where they were going to be at a specific event by going back and forth between each three. Is that fine? I mean, it blew everyone's mind and everyone was really disturbed by it. Facebook into Google, into LinkedIn, into Google, into Facebook, to find out where people were talking about where they were going to be, to find a specific event and where high net individuals are going to be. And they got an awful lot of information and contact details on that. And is that legal?
Well, there's two sides to the coin. Firstly, if people are on a public platform, for example, LinkedIn, and if I'm, if I'm talking to my 400 connections on LinkedIn and saying that I'm speaking at this seminar this morning, I mean, that's pretty public information. So expect that to basically make its way into the public. Whereas if you're on Google Plus and you're speaking to quite a small one of your inner circles, well, it's unlikely that's going to become public. So from the user perspective, it depends how you communicate. And with Facebook, when you make a post, for example, you can choose as to how that posting, do you want to make it, there's particular inline settings where you can adjust. So, but the activity from the researcher's perspective, jumping across different platforms and seeking to, that sounds a bit almost like scraping. So there's an issue, there's a core, one of the 8 principles of data privacy law is fair collection. And it strikes me that's the unfair collection of data. So there's arguably limitations as to, there's also an exception for research of data privacy law, so we might get you back out of it. Oh, sorry, that was me. Yeah, data mining and data analytics throws up data privacy issues. So we can talk at length about it. There's some initial thoughts.
You clearly got a little bit excited.
Yeah. Analytics is the future. So.
Right, yeah.
Hi, Mark Mellett from the Irish Cancer Society. Can I ask each of the panelists who they believe, what brand, are effectively using social media to drive revenue?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Which brands do you think are actually effectively using social media to drive revenue for the company?
And you'll have to choose amongst your various customers and but yeah, well, yeah, it's a good example of a company using social media. Come on, guys, you have to find one.
These guys would be the B2C guys. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so there. I think no. There's a lot, I guess, and part of the very fact that a lot of companies use an integrated marketing strategy means that yes, there's a correlation between spend on social media and sales. How exactly you tie that ROI? It's the same with whether you're using AdWords or whether you're using anything. But companies that have had very successful campaigns on Facebook. There was a lot around the Olympics. Nike have done an amazing one with their running app and how they've integrated into Facebook. I really encourage you to look at the Cupcake Bakery. It's a great site, great page. Other brands in Ireland, I'm trying to think of recent ones. Topshop have just done an amazing campaign. Actually, they're just trying to break into the United States, and some of their campaigns have been really innovative over the past few weeks. Actually, they're a very current one. I'm just looking at Clive. Clive, do you know of any other? O2 is a fantastic one. The Gathering is a phenomenal campaign on Facebook, actually, that's really gathering momentum. You know, the sporting event there a few weeks was the kickoff, but since then it's just going from strength to strength. Yeah, there's a Music Maker is another great small company based, I think it's based in George Street maybe, but it's got a huge social media strategy which is just fantastic. They had their most successful sale that they ever had about 3 weeks ago, I think 4 weeks ago. Yeah, there's plenty.
And what do you, in your opinion, what made those campaigns successful? I mean, I guess each of them is different, but it's what's the level of integration on, offline, several platforms? What is it exactly?
Honestly, I believe it's the quality of their posts. It's what they actually do with their page, not having a page or not the frequency. But you know, Nike's running app is fantastic because it makes you compete against your friends. And I don't run, but I still know who's the fittest person in our office in terms of how far they've ran. But it's a really competitive one that is engaging because everybody wants to boast about how far they've ran. And with, you know, the Olympics and all the focus on sport over the summer, it was timely. The app itself is hugely engaging, and you want to share it with your friends. Again, the Cupcake Bakery, it's more about being exclusive. You know, they're always targeting their customers with new flavors, new offers. You know, whether it's an extended opening time or reminding people that, you know, if you're going to a dinner party on Saturday night, cupcakes is a lovely thing to bring, to be a bit different. And they constantly are giving tips. You know, another there's a beauty salon on Richmond Terrace, just by Portobello, that, you know, I'm a fan of. But I love what they do because they're always like Thursday, they're like going out on Saturday night, need your hair done, and they just continually post things like that, like get over the Monday blues, come and get a manicure. And they do things that are really relevant. You know, they take what they think their customers are doing and match that with a really clear message that makes them be front and center of people's minds.
Okay.
Great question, Mark. I think I just look at it on the kind of the path to purchase. So if it's from stimulus through to actual purchase, I think the social media, I think the sharing, I think that maybe viewing a blog, looking at video content, swapping stuff with friends, maybe searching for something. I think these are all integral parts. I think I've got some very good client examples. Like, for example, we have a client, Visit Greece, that directly attributed about 15,000 additional visitors to Greece this summer as a result of their association with Google+. But then it was part of a very wide-ranging campaign. So they were able, because they use Google Analytics, to actually pull that out. But not all advertisers do. So I'd kind of play the question back to you and say, look, I just look at all the different parts of what people do as they go to make a purchase, and then encourage kind of social as part of that in terms of maybe amplifying the message out.
Very good.
And Mark, we're seeing advertisers on our platform who are targeting professionals to be successful. So similar to these, now every network you can micro down. So if you have you happen to know that investment bankers prefer to drive a 5 Series BMW, right? We can show them all the investment bankers in a certain region. They can target them. But I'd actually like to turn it back to you because, Mark, you mentioned you're from the Irish Cancer Society. I'm actually speaking at the Irish Fundraising Association next week, and I'm more interested in how do not-for-profits benefit from social media, because giving and donating, both on the corporate level as well as the individual level, is a social aspect. So I'd rather.
Yeah, absolutely. It's being a fundraiser, we go straight to the fundraising piece on it, but you quickly see that social media is not a direct off-the-page fundraising tool. So what I've seen is it goes back to what David was saying. It's just giving people better engagement to the difference we're making. So that's from our perspective. It's really amplifying the effect of their donation, the effect of their support in an engaging way. And then it does also, we hope, it's all test at the moment, we hope allow us to access a younger audience. Typically, people who are support charities tend to be older, so it gets us to access a younger audience and engage them in a way that they are, excited about and happy to and is relevant to them. So that's where we're at the moment. It's very much test and understanding.
Yeah, so I'll be there next week. I really want to talk about this further because it's something that not-for-profits need to figure out as well, is how do they participate in all these competitions. A tidbit of what's to come, what LinkedIn's working on right now in the not-for-profit space is we have 170 plus million members with professional skills. How do they donate those professional skills to the not-for-profit? So for example, Philip's obviously a highly specialized lawyer who could help you out with privacy law, which is something not-for-profits need to worry about, but I'm sure the size of his invoice would be something not every not-for-profit could do. Philip. At the same time, Philip has a social conscience and he wants to give back to the community. Right? He does. Work with me here. Stay with me for a second. I'm gonna say this. All right. Yeah. So let's say Philip was to participate in something like building a home in either a developing world or even a lower income part of Ireland, right? But no, Philip, I'm guessing he's a better lawyer than he is a builder, right? So is donating his manual labor or even running a marathon the best use of his time versus actually helping you with your privacy terms and policy? We have 175 plus million members with professional skills, marketing, finance, legal, who could donate their professional skills to the not-for-profit space, that gets me really excited, and it's a conversation going on at the moment.
Okay, well, we're getting to maybe one last question, maybe, very quickly. And
Mary Griffin, Summit Focus. I'm just interested in listening to our three panelists and the three different platforms. And while we have Facebook presence and we have very strong LinkedIn presence for our company, and we use Google every day of the week, I'm wondering what's going to happen with our website page. In other words, are we going to make our website builders and developers redundant? Is Facebook and all the social media platforms going to eliminate the need for website pages in the future? Or is integration going to continue forever?
I think the answer to that question depends very much on which platform that you currently work for, but I'll start. I think actually, my strong view is that a lot of these platforms will coexist alongside one another. I think, though, that the skills of the future in the website area are going to be mobile website skills rather than desktop skills, because I think that's already a pretty learned area. And I think actually, like, learning how to build a good mobile website is actually something that is only really in development now. And then I think it will link in seamlessly. So, for example, a lot of what Google Plus can do, for example, Hangouts, which is kind of our kind of version of Skype, but free of charge. And essentially, that can be embedded into any one of these other platforms here. So we can have a Hangout theoretically running out of a LinkedIn page. I'm not sure if we can have a Hangout running out of a Facebook page, but maybe at some point this kind of interconnectivity will actually happen. So we never know. But I think actually, I don't think that traditional desktop is going to go away, and the dominant way of actually serving advertising there, or like directing advertising, sorry, I think is still going to be towards a website. But I think it's going to be a smaller part, albeit still a part, because I don't see laptops, for example, going away from a business perspective anytime soon.
Gail, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think I don't think it's going to be anytime soon before the traditional website is retired or deprecated. Well, I don't know. If I knew, I would be a genius. But I think at the minute there's a lot of complementary facets of different types of technology. So, a website tends to be a lot more static, as a Facebook page tends to be a lot more dynamic. One is about, your static positioning of your company. You tend to have a home page, an About Us page, a contact page, and if you're a retailer, you'll have the things you sell page, and you'll have a checkout page. And that's pretty standard across the web. People have figured this out. But it's very hard to get that web page to be a center of dialogue and conversation and really dynamic, and that's where a Facebook page comes into play. Likewise with LinkedIn, if I think about my own behavior, I use LinkedIn for my professional profile. I don't update it every day, but I do keep it relatively updated. Otherwise, people think I still work at Google. So I do. So I do keep it updated, but not as much as I do my Facebook profile, where I update it at least every day, if not twice a day or 3 times a day, depending what I'm doing and what I want to share and who I want to share it with. So I think there's a lot of complementary technologies out there. What it's going to be in 10 years, I don't know, because I think 10 years ago, we didn't realize the proliferation of mobile. We didn't realize how amazing smartphones were going to change, not just how we access the internet, but how we communicate with each other. We didn't understand how things like Skype were also going to change how we connect with people and interact with people. So I wish I knew the answer, but I do think there's a lot of complementary.
I absolutely love this question. I never even thought, is social media going to replace the internet, the web page? If you think back to my earlier example, remember the phrase "from bricks to clicks," right? And the thought that you could eliminate the storefront. Your question is are we going to go from clicks to follows? Right? You heard it here first. Clicks to follows. Name my book. Trademark that, Philip, please. But the thing, and I'm literally thinking on the spot here, which I've been doing for the last hour, is that the problem with social media is the company can't control the conversation. And Philip had an earlier example about a company being open up to liability based on something someone else posted on their page. All right, and that's scary for companies, which is why they need to get in there and participate. I think you still need to have the website the same way you still need to have a storefront where a company can actually control the message. So it's we're going to participate in this, but you still want to go to the actual company's website to get the correct information to make sure. You want to make sure you're looking at the actual BA.com to see their policy or what it is their products are and what it stands for to get the real information. And then social media to kind of get the community information, which will effectively influence the consumer and how they engage with that brand and the decisions they make. But I still think companies are still going to say, no, this is the actual Coke.com, Nike.com. This is our official, and then let it grow from out there.
I think you've seen lots of kind of offers organisations, I suppose Groupon being the best example of it, which kind of have a social angle and obviously kind of have a very strong commerce angle. I think one of the things, and kind of to your question earlier on as well, Mark, I think we'll start to see a lot more social being able to drive very short term sales, and I think that will be something that social will become a lot better known for because of its immediacy and short term. I think I'd echo the comments here. I think overall, whatever users are actually doing, it's actually not for this panel to try and decide where users are actually going. Users will decide. Users decided 10 years ago without any marketing interference whatsoever. They love SMSs, and there was virtually no marketing collateral surrounding it. Users have decided in the last couple of years that actually they love high-end mobile devices, and we as technology companies are chasing them in and trying to monetize it as fast as we possibly can. They'll probably just decide something equally unusual. I think, and equally wonderful too. I think, one big thing we haven't talked about today, not part of the panel, is the kind of rise of cloud computing and the kind of anytime, anywhere devices. And I think, if you look at the behavior of everybody here in the audience, like a couple of years ago, I had a PC, didn't probably have a laptop. 10 years ago, I had a kind of Nokia mobile phone, the great big grey one that lasted a week. And now I've probably got 10 of these devices. And I think we seem to be coexisting, or I seem to be anyway, if I'm representative, and I imagine I may be of this audience, kind of coexisting across all these different platforms. So doesn't really answer your question, but you get our prognostications.
Okay, thank you. We're conscious of the time. It's 9:10, and we all have to go to work. So thank you so much for attending the session. Thank you so much for the quality of your answer today. If I just want to say something about if anybody was in doubt about how efficient can be social media, when we advertise or promote this events through social media, it was sold out within less than 1 hour. So that's obviously tribute to the great speaker that we had today. So thank you very much, and stay connected with us. Thank you.